Mrs. Diallo is the head of the Amadou Diallo Foundation, and Norman Siegel here to my left. We work with her, and one day she called to say, I think that our foundation should do something about the atrocities that are going on in Guinea, particularly that which happened on September 28th. And the idea was that if we could gather some of us as we have today, that we might be able to get the media of New York, which New York is an international communications center. And if we could get the folks here to carry forth this message, maybe the world will take an interest in what's going on. You all who are here gathered, obviously you know about it. So I prepared a very short statement that I would ask you to listen to, and I want to thank those members of the media who are here. I want to particularly thank one young man with the Associated Press, Babito Matthews. Where is he? But he is he's a young man. He's a young man who noticed on the day book. The day book is a document that all media outlets have that indicates those things that are going to be covered that day that they think are of moment. And he perceived that nobody might be here, and so he's here. Now, so if nobody else carries forth this message, we know the Associated Press would. And when we have complaints, Norman Siegel and I particularly, when we have complaints about the media, we are not shy to say so. So I think that when the converse is true, we should give credit where it is due. And so, Brother Matthews of the Associated Press, we thank you, sir. I'm here today in hopes that the vast media of this city, the communications capital of the world, will help us to spread the word about the atrocities in Guinea to as wide an audience of the good people of this city as possible, and to join in our plea for intervention on behalf of the people of that great nation, to end the violations of their civil and their economic, their individual and collective human rights. My dear friend, Mrs. Katiato Diallo, called to ask that we would help our foundation, which she formed, and Norman Siegel, who stands here to my left, who's the treasurer of the Amadou Diallo Foundation. We said, of course, as usual, Mrs. Diallo, you are right. And so there started this effort to gather here as we have. And so I thank each of you for being here. And your mere presence will help us to spread the word that this is something that's important. Just as when we lost Amadou Diallo, people by the thousands gathered in our city, marched across the Brooklyn Bridge. Some of us were arrested because we wanted to send forth the message that we will not tolerate this. This is in the same vein. It really is in the same vein. And because we are many miles from Guinea does not mean that we do not feel the pain that's going on there. The people of Guinea have been disappointed time and time again in seeking to end the repressive rules of a succession of corrupt leaders since gaining independence from France some 50 years ago. Their hopes were dashed again on September 28th, the anniversary of their National Independence Day, when 50,000 gathered in the capital city of Conakry.
Yes.
That's why I have her always close. To protest the continued postponement of free elections, the slaughter and unspeakable crimes that followed at the hands of the Guinean army Ghanaian army have called the world's attention to the ongoing plight of the people of that nation of 10 million and the abuses of their government. Our hope is that we can help to raise the consciousness of the American people and speak out against the atrocities of September 28th and the rights of the Ghanaian people to elect their own leadership. We ask your help in urging the people of New York City to echo the calls to freedom and justice spoken by our international representatives. Ambassador Susan Rice, in presiding over the United Nations Security Council, urged the authorities of Guinea to put an end to the violence. And these are her words. She says, and bring the perpetrators to justice. Release all political prisoners, opposition leaders, and individuals who are being denied due process under the law, and to allow a prompt return to the rule of law, democracy, and constitutional order. Our Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, was so appalled and outraged by the indiscriminate killing and raping, and she called it a vile violation of the rights of the people of that country who had gathered in peaceful protests against the military takeover. She went further to insist that those who permitted such actions in the name of the government cannot remain in power and must turn back to the people the right to choose their own leaders. The Secretary General of the United Nations was reported by a spokesperson to be shocked and to urge the authorities to respect the basic human rights of the citizens of Guinea. And as our president assured the world in his inaugural address just 11 months ago, when Barack Obama said, to those who cling to power through corruption and deceit and the silencing of dissent, know that you're on the wrong side of history, but that we will extend a hand if you're willing to unclench your fist. Thank you for coming. God bless you all.